And as usual, guys, I'm just waiting for YouTube, our quick routine in here. And it's interesting, I like kind of this recording live here because it's at least I don't have to upload or anything afterwards as well.
Our
So,
quick
oops.
routine in here.
Cool. So it's all confirmed, it's working, so we're live. So hello guys, welcome to episode number 20, I think it's 29. Yeah, 29 today. And it goes by quite nicely. The last few episodes is it's really cool, like just to look back. I can't remember all of the topics, but I know that some of them come up. But I know that this week we spoke, this last three episodes we spoke about the I think God is spirituality. I think it was a powerful one, and we're just chatting about it just before we come live as well. How much vulnerability, courage required, especially from Amanda. When she got emotional. If you haven't watched that episode, I would strongly advise you to have a look, and because it might be that you have something in your life that you want to express and you want to share, and it requires courage and requires go through fear and go to become vulnerable and everything. And then we spoke about World War III. I mean, again, about fear and everything that's going on in the world, and how we can deal with fear, and how fear is powerful. And for today's, the intention is actually it's the delight and the beauty of fear as well, because it's actually taking the courage, or how fear can lead to courage, and how that vulnerability can lead to courage as well. So it's a beautiful, I think, continuation from those last two episodes as well, where we can lean into fear. You can feel fear, and then you can tap into courage, which is not about not feeling the fear, not feeling scared or anything else, but like, I know it's going to be okay. And I was sharing with Amanda just before we jumped in as well, like I jumped into a next level into my business, into a course that I've been doing. I'm doing level 2, which requires a considerable amount of investment, and there is a considerable amount of like time commitment, traveling, and everything else. But I knew it was the right thing. It was not an easy decision. It was scary, and you can feel, and I got emotional when I signed the contract, when I spoke to Gabor. Am I doing the right thing? Am I not doing the right thing? All the stuff that comes into your mind. But then that light, or inside of you is saying like, yeah, go for it. It's fine. You're gonna be okay. And you take this step, and you take that leap of faith of doing it, and that is where you can tap into courage, and then things start to change from that moment. And I feel that, yeah, that's the conversation that we're going to have today. We're going to have like some examples and so on. So yeah, welcome, and thank you for bringing that idea as well, Amanda, together.
Bless you. Yeah, I always get lost and just listen to you.
That's all right.
You always put it together so beautifully, and so hello everybody that's here, whether you're live or listen to recordings. It's wonderful to have you here with us, and no matter where you are, what time of day it is, um, and I love what we were saying. We have a chat before we start recording, and it's a beautiful building up of the energy of, and we bring that energy with us when we go live as well. And we were sort of saying how fear is so powerful in that it is the sort of, it is the spark that can bring us to realize there are perhaps some changes that need to be made, or there's something that needs to happen, and then there's a courage involved in that, and there's a vulnerability, and then fear. We're not saying that fear is always just a mental concept, and that there is no sort of danger involved in anything. But when we listen to, when we're able to really go within and listen to our hearts, it will feel like, as you were sharing beautifully about going up to that next level of your business, and I can tell as you were sharing it with me, how right it is for you. It's so you could tell you're so aligned with it. It's so right for you. And your heart and your soul knew that. but there was some fears in your mind around it, and it was a situation that brought up a lot of those fears. You felt them, you spoke to them, you listened to your heart, you didn't make a rash decision. There was a process to it. You know, you took some steps. So we're saying that as you feel the fear, there can be some steps involved. It can be a process. Sometimes it's not an instant, oh, I felt some fear, so I jumped in. You know, we're saying that the courage that comes from fear is the thing that causes huge changes, and it can be on a very personal level, but also by having that courage to show that vulnerability, to make those changes that our heart knows is right, but our mind, our ego is saying, I don't want to do that. That's when we know there's a deep calling and it's good for us to do it, even if it's scary. And then that's when we can call in help and support, loved ones, friends, or even authorities that might be needed. And it's certainly not to judge ourselves when we're in fear, and it's not to judge ourselves when there isn't the courage there yet to maybe make some changes that we know we need to make. There is a process, and there's a humility with it as well. And then we were sharing also about how we both know that when we reconnect with that light within, you know, going back to that deeper spiritual work that we talk about as well, that we bring into our everyday lives, when we remember that we are light beings, you know, we are so much more than this beautiful physical bodies that we're in, and this amazing earth planet that we're inhabiting. I mean, it's just phenomenal, blows my socks off every day. We are the light that wants to shine through us as individuals into this world. And it's unique, as we said, it's multifaceted. Everyone has different purposes and gifts and talents we bring into this world. And I think we were sharing as well before we came online, I work with children. I want to be very careful here, because obviously I don't want to in any way expose anybody, but I was working with someone recently who, they were in a very abusive situation, and we were the first person they had spoken to. And it was a good 10-15 minutes before they were going to speak. They weren't. It was okay. They didn't give any other details. And then eventually just started to give a few details, and we just sat with this person, this young person, and just kept reassuring them that no one's going to force anything. It's taken a lot of courage to do what they're doing, to share this. No one's going to force anything on them. It's okay to be where they are. It's a process. But for them, the fact that they reached out and started to share what was happening with them was huge for them. It was massively vulnerable, took a lot of courage, and we kept, you know, sort of praising them for that, reassuring them that this takes a lot of courage what you're doing. You coming here today and sharing this, because, you know, the fears around me bringing this into the light, me exposing what's been going on, the abuse that's been happening, you know, the person that's doing this, nobody else knows what will happen to this person if I bring this up into the light, because there's such conflict there. I don't want this abuse to continue, but at the same time, there was a love for the person that's doing this and a need. You know, I don't want to hurt them. I don't want them to get into trouble. And there's such a complex mix in that. And what will happen to me when it does all come out? You know, all these fears that came up. I don't want to go into a care home. I don't, you know, what's going to happen? What will happen within my family? What if people don't believe me? And you could feel these fears coming up, and we just gently sat with this young person as they talked about. And in the end, they said, you know, it's a huge relief to be able to share this without having to say, right, I'm going to take some steps now. I'm going to take some actions. She wasn't ready to take actions yet. Not ready to take actions. actions weren't needed yet. It was that place of the courage, the vulnerability. And then by the end of it, no agreed action was taken yet. But this young person did say, they said, you know, there's a deep calling in my heart, and that's why I'll get emotional. There's a deep calling in my heart, because they said, I know if I speak up, I'm speaking up for all young people. Just, I don't want other young people to be in this situation, you know. And it was that deep calling in their heart to say, I'm doing it for my own innocence, but I don't want other young people to be in this situation. I want to show people that, you know, you can. And what a huge thing for them to say, even through all the fear. And you know, and I think I do that a lot with my work. You helping people through fears and tapping into who they really are, and that courage and that vulnerability and the process of that. And I know I shared with Junior wonderfully annual on Monday, you know, the vulnerability for me. And I will be honest, as I clear the fears around just shining your light into the world. For me, it's the Seraphina energy, and my ego's going, why do you think you are? You're not an angel, and all the stuff that comes up, and what will people think, you know? And but for me, just very heartfelt, that when I feel that energy, it feels so beautiful and it just wants to shine. And there's no concept around that once the fears start to dissolve. And you were saying, June, as well, that, you know, sometimes you might be that first person that has to step onto that new path that nobody else has stepped on before. You're paving the way, you're putting the lights on, and there'll be a lot of resistance. But there'll be a lot of people observing you saying, I'm not ready yet to join them, but wow, I'm loving what they're doing. And yeah, you know, we've both said I do believe in past lives. So for me, yeah, a lot of past lives where it's resulted in death, I'll be honest, where by shining your light, being that pure light, it's not gone down well sometimes. It hasn't. And I mean, on a sort of lighter note, there's always been an energy in our house that when I had my children, there was an energy that came through, a consciousness that came through, and she was very protective of my children, and a very good energy, a very light energy. And I felt very maternal towards her. And eventually an experience came up from a past life where we both died as witches, and I couldn't protect her because she was my child, and she was being accused, and she came back through. You know, it was a consciousness of I'm okay. And she helped me heal what I was carrying from that. And she's very present in our house. And in fact, when the kids were little, we used to have babysitters. And I remember a friend's husband had to babysit one night. I got something to do, and I remember coming back, and he said, you know, he said, your kids kept running around on the landing and jumping off your bed. And he said, I'd run upstairs to catch them, and there was nobody there. I was like, oh, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's just, yeah, gave the name. And he was just, what? And even my husband too, he was a farm vet, played cricket, you know, a very practical, loved hill walking, you know, his nature was God. Even he in the end had to say, yeah, there's definitely something here, because you hear upstairs, and you hear, and then he started to see orbs. There's a seat that she sits on in the living room, and he said, I think she's here, I can see purple orbs. And that freaked him out, even having to admit that. So, and even me sharing that story here, there's a vulnerability to that for me, because, you know, Gina, I was saying, you want to help people, you don't want to put people off, but at the same time, you have to be vulnerable, you have to be authentic about who you are and what you experience.
I feel Amanda, thank you again, to share that vulnerability and to be open. And I feel I had a friend of mine as well that helped me so much as well with the spiritual stuff. And she was saying how hard it was for her to share the stuff that she could see. Do you see what I mean? Because she could see energy, she could see, people, she could see angels and stuff. And for her, like, people wouldn't understand what you're talking about and all the stuff. And like when she could embrace herself and be herself and to share, then she start to attract other people that actually believe on the same things, that could actually see the same things, that could respect it, could actually embrace it.
Yeah.
And again, the analogy that we just brought up before, coming to life as well, her, like, let's say, little candlelight start to be the beginning of the candlelight for other people to light up their candle. You know what, actually I see this as well, or I feel this. I don't know exactly, I can't see it very well, but I can feel there's something here. Or I can feel someone in my house, or I can feel that I'm protected, or I feel that there is some sort of like an energy, an entity, an angel. Or I can feel that, yeah, there are parts of me that feels scared about something that doesn't make sense in this lifetime. But yeah, if there was a past life and something, then yes, I mean, I start understanding why. That makes sense now to my mind, and so on. And I like, bridging the two worlds sometimes, like with the same thing. So for me, it feels, even if, you don't believe on this stuff, whoever is watching this, but if you believe that by watching or being allowing that imagine, or those, let's say, those images or those sounds or those feelings to allow you to connect to yourself, to who you really are, that's the key thing, regardless if you believe it or not, if you're seeing it or if you're not seeing it. But also, I love the courage and the vulnerability of actually expressing this, even when it sounds, I mean, not the normal outside out there. And I feel our world is changing a lot, like throughout the centuries and so on. Like if you were talking about, I don't know, witches and spells and everything else, you would get killed. I mean, from the history that we got. And like nowadays, there's so much more lightness for people to actually, connect with angels, to, study more, to work things out. And again, I always, my mind always kind of connect with like spells, everything that we say nowadays, pretty much they are spells to our life anyway. Because if you say, I'm not good enough, there is a physical, tangible effect into your life. It is a spell in your life, literally. And if someone told you from a kid and you've been told over and over again, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, there is a consequence, a physical consequence and everything else. There is a spell in that way.
Yeah.
And at the same way, you can use good spells on the other way around, which is like, I'm worthy, I'm love, I'm light, I'm here for a reason, I'm here, to support, and I'm here to be supported, and so on. So there are beautiful spells, let's say, that we can, transform the world as well. So I love, the bridge between the two worlds, like the physical, logical, scientific, explained, and everything, where you can go, actually, it's not just a spell, it's actually your limiting beliefs, that because it's connected with the brain and this part and that and so on, which is beautiful in that sense. But
Yeah.
before all of that was known centuries ago, this was witchery. Do you see what I mean? It was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
In that sense, and you could get killed because people wouldn't understand what does that mean as well.
I,
And yeah, and as Amanda was saying there, like, sharing some of, the past life experience and so on, those the courage of those, versions of our lifetimes or our past lives, and as well, allow us to have this version of lifetime now, and our version of life now, and our courage and the steps that we're taking today are creating even a better world, or a different world for the future versions of, you know, ourselves, or, you know, the people that are yet to come.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, Julian. I love um, saying about the power of this, the power of the bridging of this, isn't it? And I know we shared in our early episodes how we both love science and we both love understanding the physicality of the world and the physicality of the body. I mean, love it. I mean, I used to get teased as a lecturer teaching physiology anatomy because of it. It's marvelous, isn't it? It's just marvelous. And they're like, oh, here she goes. But yeah, as you say, and I think, you know, even as I could, as you were talking, I just love what you were saying about the power of words and beliefs. You know, they are like a spell, aren't they? And that's the courage, isn't it? I think, to be able to look at all of ourselves. I think there's a courage to be self-responsible. It takes courage to do that, because when we look at it, like you say, you could say someone cast a spell on me because I don't think I'm worthy or I'm not good enough. And so, yeah, in a way, it is an energetic spell because there's an energy in there. It's been ingrained and a part of us believes it. And this is where I love the words that say, you know, may I be forgiven for forgetting the divine light I am, and any part of me that thinks it's unworthy, unloved, not good enough, bad, lacking, wrong, blame, shame. It's forgotten the light that it is, and yeah, it's been cast in a spell of forgetfulness. So I know for me, in saying the words like, may we all be forgiven for forgetting the lights that we are. And we're not to say that, you know, guilt and shame is there to remind us. If I was to go out here and kick a dog in the head, I should feel bad about that. You know, I'm meant to feel bad about that. But where it goes too far is where we'll say, I am shame, I am bad. The thing I did was bad. But then eventually, if it continues enough, the spell gets cast where a part of us believes, I am shame, I am shameful. And that's where, yeah, it's the deeply ingrained belief, isn't it, or spell. And I think just the relief of, you were saying about you have your candor when you're working, and we were saying the huge comfort and bringing back to remembering who we are when we use light. It's that remembering we're light beings, that remembering who we really are. And I know we always keep coming back to this. And this, the young person, I must admit, one of the young people I was with yesterday, I'll briefly tell this, I know we're aware of time as well, and for her it was an environmental thing, but it was making her so paralyzed in fear that it was really traumatizing her. And the process of being able to let her feel all these fears and talk about them and feel them and acknowledge them and all that came up for her, and then it was that very gentle process of, okay, well, it takes a lot of courage for you to talk about this and feel this. You're obviously a hugely caring person. You beautiful. And really summarizing this quickly, we were able to just bring her into this place of, well, actually, what changes would you like to see happening? And they have to start with us. You know, we can't leap straight out into the world to make the change. The change comes from with us. And initially there was an anger there, and there was this, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to do all these things and I'm going to blow up politicians. And then, you see, if you take any action, she had to feel that, and she had to process that anger. That anger was there. It was important she felt it. And then as that anger, as we went beneath the anger, she said, gosh, there's a sadness there. You know, why? And then she cried because I find it painful we treat Mother Earth this way. She said, I find it painful we treat animals. And then as we went beneath the sadness, the hope came in for her, and she was able to sort of look at, there was a lot of good being done. So we're not hiding our head to the fact that there's, yeah, a lot of environmental things, a lot of things happening, but we were able to bring her to this place of, what changes do you want to bring into this world? What do you want to see happen? And then you could feel she'd reconnected with a space within her of potential, of, you know, talking about the little changes she could make in her home, looking at bringing in the goods, bringing in that love, bringing, because you said, I want to live in a world where everyone cares about each other and everyone loves animals. So, well, bring that energy into the world then, bring that love back, you know. And then she was talking about setting up a little group with her friends, an environmental group. She's talking about talking to her family about making some changes at home. And she was saying, you know, even in terms of a job, you know, perhaps I might like to do something that could help with the environment. And so it went from paralyzed in fear and anger to really wanting to get out of it. You know, she was having suicidal thoughts because she said, I can't handle the pain. But then very gently honoring all the emotions that we went through, got to that place of love within her and strength, and she felt empowered again. And as you said yesterday, we'd said you're going to have these waves again where you're going to watch an advert where an animal's being neglected, and I was saying, and I said I cry every day. Yeah, I said I cry every day. You know, if I watch an animal being abused, I'll cry. If I watch a child, or so don't be afraid of your emotions. You know, it's not that you want to look at a child being abused and go, ah, you know, of course, but you don't get lost in that. You don't get paralyzed in that. You feel that, and then it gives you the drive, the incentive, the courage, the energy, the strength to say, right, okay, I want to bring love back into this world. So I'm going to do some stuff that are bloody uncomfortable. I'm going to face situations that, oh my God, it really, really tests you. I could bury my head in the sand, no, but I'm going to do these things. And yeah, they're not comfortable, but let's do these things and let's bring this love back into this world where we bring our lights in, we bring our beautiful variation of light, whatever we are, and may we all be forgiven for forgetting that we're love and we're light and we're together and we're harmony and we're a huge family. And I know that can sound quite twee, but that's the reality, isn't it? That's the reality of what we all want. Nobody wants to hurt. Nobody wants to be in fear. Nobody wants to be the abuser or the abused. Nobody really wants that. Nobody does. It's just, as you almost used to, the spell that's been cast because we've forgotten the love and the power, the vastness of who we really are. God.
I love that you were just let the flow come through, Amanda. Thank you for that. And in my mind, I mean, there's so much good stuff on just like, even if people just, you know, pay attention to this flow that you had right now. There are a few things I want to highlight in there. As always, you know, my two sides keep coming there. One is you mentioned like this, you know, this young person, for example, she was paralyzed by fear, for example, by, you know, and again, by fear, worry, the anxious thoughts of what's going to be in the future, to the point where you're like, I don't want to be here anymore. You know, what's the point on being there? And I want, you know, whoever is watching this, that there will be moments where we're going to be paralyzed by fear. I've been there so many times, and I can't, you know, take an action. I can't take a step, and so on. And I feel the beauty of what, you know, Amanda just shared here is that it's normal. It's okay for us to feel fear, to feel paralyzed by fear. It's okay for fear to be present. And the key thing that was coming to me: without fear, there's no courage. How could you express? How could you experience courage if there was no fear? And courage is a good, you know, there is a powerful feeling into it. There's a powerful drive into it. Transformation in the world happens because of courage. I was just sharing with Caroline, with Amanda before. It was like, I'm gay and I open up, and I feel so fortunate to live like in the UK, or in a country, and even in Brazil, what I mean, where I can be myself. But it wasn't that way always. Do you see what I mean? There were people in the past, they had to take the courage to go against everything else that was around them. There were people that, got killed, that got into, a fight and everything else, in order to bring that possibility that, we are enjoying this nowadays. And at the same time, there's still countries in the world where this is not possible. Do you see what I mean? That where you're not allowed to, that is illegal too, that you're going to be blamed, you can be taken away from your family and so on, you can get killed, you can get in jail and so on. But if someone doesn't take the step, even on those countries or outside of those countries, to have the courage to actually change that, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So again, just going back, and I feel that this is such a beautiful example of like fear can paralyze us, and that is a normal thing. It's okay. It's not for you to blame yourself that you shouldn't be paralyzed or anything else. But then there is a trust, there's a knowing that also there will be the other parts of the other emotions that will come through. And the other emotions, that it can be like, as Amanda was saying here. And if you look, I studied psychology, not that I mean, I studied a little bit when I was at uni for business and stuff. But if you study psychology, it's a normal flow of like going from a depressive, paralyzed thought to go to then, anger, and where you kind of like, no, I'm going to change everything, everything's wrong, and so on. But that is a recovery from paralyzed. Now you're not paralyzed anymore, depressed anymore. Now there is some energy building up in there. And then there is a wave that goes into sadness, and oh, it shouldn't be this way, and I feel bad and so on. And then you go into, starting to transmute into like, no, hope. Oh,
Yeah.
there is a possibility here, and there is a way out of here. And then into actually almost like certainty. I know what I get to do here to transform. I know that it may not change everything now, but I know my little step. I know that I get to step forward and so on.
Mm.
And sometimes we can go through all those emotions by ourselves. And I would say most of the time we do it because we're not 24 hours of the day with another person.
Yeah.
We are like with ourselves, I can guarantee to you. Even if you're alone or with another person, the thoughts, the end emotions, and everything else is with you. And most of the time we go through those emotions knowing it or not knowing it. You go from paralyzed to anger to sadness to hope to excitement to joy and so on, and it will come back again, and then go to paralyzed, and then anger and sadness and so on again. And sometimes we can seek help, and then like I'm on the help that the young person beautifully, like just to be there and to be that source of light of like, oh yeah, I'm here, I'm listening to you, I'm this soundboard for you. And then allowing, kind of just like nudging a little bit of like, and going to the next emotion, going to the next feeling, until they can find themselves again, to find who they really really are in that sense.
Yeah.
So if you like, for this episode, as we're talking about fear, and especially into the self-development world and into the spiritual world, and people are so scared of, no, I shouldn't have taken an action from a place of fear, I shouldn't be paralyzed by fear, I shouldn't, fear is a bad thing, fear is that and everything else. It's not, it's just another part of that allows us to alchemize again, to transform, to
Yeah.
find courage, to find transformation, to change the world.
Mhm.
And in some places, like Amanda was beautifully putting, that courage led people to die, and they didn't die in vain. The witches that die in the past allow us to, to have the life that we have, the the people that have died in the past and so allowed to,
Yeah.
for myself to have the life that I have today, and put the future generations to have it in a different way and so on. So that courage may seem like that led them to die or something, but that actually that death wasn't in vain. It was to transform. And I'm not saying for you to throw yourself into, killing yourself or anything else. You know your path. You know when you connect to yourself, the courage that you require to shine that light. And I think this episode, it will connect so well with what we spoke yesterday, because that shine the light can be as transforming and as, let's say, as light as, for example, if you look at Gandhi, for example, in the way that he done that,
Yeah.
or in the way that Nelson Mandela done that as well, or in people that actually had to go through wars and so on to get to the life that we have today. So I think at the end of the day, just like this idea that fear is a bad thing or not, it's not. It's just part of our emotions, of our spectrum, or, I mean, of colors or emotions that we experience, and we're gonna carry on experiencing. It's like Amanda was saying, that girl, yes, she went from paralyzed, depressed to maybe anger, sadness, and then hope, and then feeling a little bit more excited to do something about it, and then she can come back again into paralyzing, and then that cycle kind of teaches us. And as we know, the repetition, like when you jump in a bike for the first time, you're going to fall down, and then you jump in a bike again, and you jump in a bike again, until you start riding, and now you can get to different places, because now you know how to balance that a little bit. And that's what we hear kind of learning as well along the way.
Oh, I love that, Gina. I love how you bring it together and explain things. And I know some of my training I did, we had a part of our training was about um, gender sexuality, and this amazing guy came in. He was in his late 60s, and he shared some of his experiences from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and it was really shocking. And I was saying to Junior, we live in a world sometimes, don't we, where I would say pretty much everyone I spend time with or communicate with, um, there's just an absolute love and acceptance of who anybody is. It wouldn't even, there's no question. Um, but yeah, it's so beautiful, isn't it, to remember the people that have dug deep and listened to their heart, and they've found that strength within them to say, I want to break through this fear that's suppressing and disempowering and limiting so many people of a specific thing, or just generally, people just not being able to just authentically shine their light and be who they are, and are very loving. But it's never hurtful, isn't it? And I think I love your analogy about the candle as well, where our own light just shines our light, and we don't want to blind people with it, we don't want to overpower people with it, but at the same time we keep that light shining of who we are in this world. And it can be scary sometimes, but it's that courage of, well, if I shine my light and be who I am, and people might not understand or may misunderstand or may bring up triggers in other people, well, I'm going to keep digging deep and keep feeling that light within me, and feeling that. And there's always a love behind courage. I think there's always a love. There's always a love there behind courage. There's always a strength. There's always power and creativity. And I think that's where the faith comes in, where you're not on your own doing this. And I know for me, I do talk about God, and I will say that's where the faith comes in, that I know I'm not on my own. There's a lot of support and energy behind me, as well as you come up the levels. Junior and I, love what we do every morning. I love it so much. Um, you know, um, there's the different levels, isn't there, to things we do, but coming back to our hearts, and it's a process, isn't it? And as we're saying, we're not saying feel the fear suddenly leap in front of the thing. No, there's a process, and there's honoring that process as well, and being gentle with yourself. And that's when life, it's also trusting life, because life might be saying there is an action we want you to take, but we haven't got things set up yet, or we need a little bit of evolution on your part consciously for you to be ready for the change that we're going to bring in. So sometimes there can be a bit of patience involved in being courageous as well. Just tuning in, what feels right? Am I ready to do this? No, actually, it's trusting that deep intuition, trusting what feels right. No matter what this is doing, we can bring it within and start to trust. If I step there, does that feel right? If I step here, if fear comes up, we know how to now hold that fear and bring it back. But it's remembering that we are deeply intuitive people, and there's a vast intelligence that we tap into that is loving and unifying and creative and fun, you know, and joyful and exciting and good, and that's really what you want to bring into the world, isn't it?
Definitely, absolutely. So guys, I think with that we can, end up our another little episode from us as well. The next one is going to be episode number 30. It's going to be exciting as well. So yeah.
Number 3. Yeah.
What we're going to come up with, what's going to be inspiring as well. So guys, again, I just want to say a massive thank you for being here. And if there is anything that you agree with us, let us know in the comments. If there's something that you don't agree with us, let us know in the comments as well. And if you like or dislike this video, just put your thumbs up or thumbs down, whichever feels good for you there. And if this kind of conversations is something that you enjoy and that you feel that is connected to you, then of course subscribe to our channel as well, and it will be awesome to be part of this little online family that we're building up as well.
I would love that.
So thank you so much again. And yeah, just remember that you are not alone. I mean, you have massive amount of power within you, and there are people around you supporting you, or entities around you, however you want to look at it. You're not alone. You are really well supported in there.
I love that.
Thank you. I'll speak to you all soon. Take care, guys.
Oh, thank you. Lots of love. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.